everyone. State Senator Joe Addabbo, 15th District in Queens. Welcome to my first premiere podcast of Where Do We Go From Here? During these podcasts, I'm hoping to talk about topics that you find helpful, informative, interesting, all within a matter of 15 minutes. And at the end of every podcast, I'll ask my guests in a positive way to go forward, where do we go from here? And talking about going somewhere, right around now, many students are going back to school. Yes, it's that time of year again, going back to school. And I see some parents already smiling ear to ear at this point. But I know parents and students are getting ready, getting their books together and their pencils and their pens and getting their summer stories ready. But are parents and students ready emotionally and mentally to go back to school? And that's our topic for today. And I want to thank our guest today, Dr. Kristina Wong from the Forest Hill Psychology Group, a psychologist who deals with these issues of mental and physical preparation for our school year. So I want to welcome Dr. Kristina Wong. Kristina, Dr. Wong, welcome to our first podcast.
Hi, Senator Addabbo. Thank you for having me.
Now, Dr. Wong is going to talk about 5 strategies that parents and students should think about in terms of mentally getting prepared for school. But before we get to the 5 strategies, I want Dr. Wong, please briefly explain your work and what you do.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a child and adolescent psychologist and the clinical director of Forest Hill Psychology Group. We work with children and teens and parents too, and helping parents kind of guide them through how to help their children at home. And a child's life comprises of so many worlds, more than we can think of, the school and the home as a few, and also their whole network of friends. So it's a very complex network that are all interacting together, and we as parents can help them learn the skills to have a mindful and good start of the school year.
Excellent. Now, Dr. Wong, these 5 strategies all begin with the letter P. So they're the 5 Ps as well of school. Why don't you go through these 5 strategies,
Yes.
these 5 as we prepare mentally for the school year?
Okay, so they're prevention, positive mindset, persistency, physiological, and play. All things to really keep in mind as we're preparing our kids for school. So first, we're going to start with prevention. We hear about coping strategies and what to do to help our children when they are having these big emotions. But really, we also have to think about how we can cope ahead of time before they're having these big emotions. What can we do to help our kids prepare and prevent these big emotions from coming in, especially the emotions that come with transitions to a new school? It can, even new school year, it can bring on a lot of big worries or even excitement. But being able to come up with coping strategies ahead of time can help prepare the child and let them know and set the stage for them to let them know that they can come to you at any time. You're open for them to talk to you about any of the feelings that they may be having with the transition to new school year. And some strategies that we can think about are breathing strategies and coming up with a plan of who you can talk to, figuring out some adults or friends that you trust, anything that works for you. The next is having a positive mindset. So being aware of this black and white thinking that a lot of us tend to have, even adults tend to have this. So, one day we wake up and we're feeling not so great. And we might think, oh, okay, this whole day is going to be terrible. But we have to keep in mind that there is a gray area at all times. And if one day is bad, doesn't mean the next day is bad. You can spend some time thinking about why the day wasn't so great and then allow yourself to accept it and move on. You can problem solve together with your child. Focus on the solutions instead of the problems that were made. Having this growth mindset can be really helpful for them. A lot of times we kind of focus on the mistakes and we stay there and we get stuck. But it's so important to be able to accept those mistakes and say, okay, this was a mistake. We had our first attempt in learning, and then we can move on and let's come up with solutions. So keeping up with a positive mindset is really important. Next is persistency. Parents can model the persistency by being consistent with routines, having an organized space, having a good home schedule. This is so important because your space, your physical space can influence your mind. It's really easy for kids to get disorganized, especially kids with ADHD or those with attentional vulnerabilities. So you want to make sure that you can help your child keep their space free of distractions, teach them how to organize. When we feel more organized in our physical space, we feel more in control. And being more in control means less anxiety and less stress that comes with that feeling of being out of control. So we want to set the routines at home, allow for persistency, organizes the mind and streamlines these decisions so then we can have more space to really think clearly. Okay, the next one is physiological. We want to look out for these physiological symptoms as a sign of emotional distress. You know, sometimes kids can tell us, or the teens can tell us, I'm feeling really upset right now, or I'm feeling frustrated. But some kids, especially younger ones, they don't really know how to express that. So they might say, I have some wiggles in my tummy, or my head hurts, my stomach hurts, I can't sleep, I can't eat, I'm not eating well, or they're extra clingy. And all these things are things to look out for. Say, oh, okay, maybe they're feeling a little bit more stressed today than usual. So you want to look out for stomach aches, headaches, any changes in sleep, any changes in activity or eating, any extra clinginess, all important signs to look for. And the last one is play. And this one, see, is very different from the other ones, but it's very, very important too. We have to recognize the need for play. Children, just like adults, can burn out really easily. So we want to be able to set them up for success and not burn them out by giving them some free time, even time to be bored. Research shows that being bored is good for our brains. It's great. It can give our mind more of an opportunity to be creative and flexible. And so all of these things are important. It's a lot to keep in mind, but it can really help set our kids up for a good start of the school year if we can think about these 5 Ps: this prevention, positive mindset, persistency, physiological, and play.
I find that these 5 Ps, and thank you for explaining, there's another P involved, if I may, and I'll add one. It's a partnership. And it's a partnership
Yes,
between the parents and the student, correct?
absolutely. Absolutely. This is definitely a partnership. The students and the parents, they have to work together, and with the schools and all of the environments involved have to work together to help support this system.
And it's so important, obviously, to have an organized or a schedule. And I know busy lives, again, parents are working, some may be working remotely, but nevertheless, parents are busy. But yet, it's so important to be organized and have some time set aside to talk to the student, the child, and make sure that everything is going
Mhm.
okay, correct?
Yes, yes. And it's sometimes it could be a lot to ask. We all have busy lives. It's hard to kind of just stop and talk to our kids. But sometimes even just 10 minutes can make a big difference. 10 minutes of uninterrupted conversation with our kids can show us so much of their inner worlds.
How easy is it? Again, you've dealt with this as a psychologist. You've spoken to parents, maybe students, of course. Do you see a common pattern? Is there common issues that many parents and students have? If so, how easy is it to administer these 5 strategies or think about these 5 items?
Oh, I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. It doesn't start easy. But the biggest thing is we have to be aware of it. Once we are aware of these 5 things to keep in mind, then we can implement it. So the first step is really to be able to think about this, remember it, really put it into our minds, into our mindsets, and then slowly work it into our days. And it starts with awareness, knowing what to look out for.
If we could break it down to for those who are maybe watching and they have children in preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, beyond,
Mhm.
can we break it down for the parents and for the students there about what may be, I guess, for each category, for each school, what may be common elements to look for?
Yeah, I think so. Starting with preschool, that's where we have the more of the attachment and the separation anxiety. So that is tough, especially if your child's going to school for the first on the first day. It's tough for the kids. It's tough for the parents. So that we want to just be able to let go of that anxiety for ourselves as a parent and trust that the school can help our children, let our children try on their own. And they may be a little distressed at first, but for the most part, they will be okay. And if they're not, their teachers will be there to help you. So that's also part of the network that we have to work with to trust our schools and our system and our teachers to help us figure out if they are okay or if they need a little bit more support. So then we're going into elementary school, and in elementary school, if it's, if they're in the same school, they might recognize it already. They might be a little bit more interested in about going to school. There's this like school honeymoon period in the beginning September. It's nice to see all your friends again. But they are, I think, very focused on giving them enough time to play. That's important there. To give them time to, yes, there's, soccer and dance and music and all that stuff after school, but play is also really important. Just be able to not overfill their schedule because then the kids will end up with burnout. So we want to keep that in mind. Middle school is when the organizational strategies really come in handy. In middle school, there is a lot more work to do. So we want to make sure that they are consistent in their routines, that they have good organizational systems set up, and to really kind of help clear out their space. In high school, hopefully they have all the organizational systems in place, but sometimes it's bumping it up, it's getting a little bit more difficult, so we have to keep the organization. And then also they're starting to think about college, so it's another transition to prepare for. And some students could start thinking about that fairly early on, so we have to, it does take some time to transition into, what do I want to do, who am I, and what do I want to be outside of um, my school. And one strategy that could work for all ages is really stopping and thinking about what may be causing me distress right now. And parents can help their kids with this. It's a very simple strategy. Halt. So halt, stop, take a breather, and think, what's going on? Why am I feeling so frustrated right now? And usually there are four things that are making us feel frustrated in that moment. And it spells out halt. H, are you hungry? A, are you feeling angry about something? L, are you feeling lonely? T, are you feeling tired? I can say this work with my preschoolers, or works with my high schoolers. It's something to really get the kids to remember to use and ask themselves. And once they're aware of it, they can then come up with solutions and feel better.
I find that so helpful, hopefully to the parents as well and students. So, Dr. Wong, again, I want to thank you for being my first guest on the first
Of course.
podcast. But after every podcast, I'm going to ask the question, where do we go from here? So, Dr. Wong, where do we go from here for our parents, for our students? Where do we go from here?
Well, where do we go from here? Well, there is a new wave of parenting guidance, I think, that has been brewing over the last few years, especially with the effects of the pandemic. It does allow parents to work from home and be with their children much more now than, previous generations, perhaps. This brings in a whole new renewed sense of interest in how parents can truly help their children succeed in life, and to really see like you said, the partnership between the parents and the students. And so this pandemic was also, brought on this emotional health into light and helped us remember how important it is for our minds and our bodies that we stay mentally, emotionally healthy. So where do we go from here? So from here, as parents, we can start to understand that we have all together live through this collective trauma of this pandemic, and that in order to process everything that we went through in the last few years, we need to allow more openness, more empathy toward ourselves and toward our children, and know that there is a lot more room for communication, that we have to keep these lines open. Um, the work does come from the parents first. We cannot forget that the parents themselves need to be emotionally and healthy themselves before you can use any of these strategies. So, sometimes as parents, we have to reparent ourselves the way that we wish we were parented before we can help our children. And like the flight attendants say, we have to put the oxygen mask on yourself before putting on your child.
Very
There's a
true.
lot of things in life that we have to keep track of, but very little matters when you're not emotionally healthy. So put on that oxygen mask and then help your children succeed and get through life.
I love the analogy with this flight attendant. Very well done, Dr. Wong. Dr. Wong, I got to thank you again for the path you chose in helping others. Again, I want to say thank you very much, and for being my first guest on Where Do We Go From Here. I want to say
Thank you. I appreciate it.
once again, State Senator Joe Addabbo. I want to thank you all for joining us on Where Do We Go From Here, and I look forward to our next podcast. Thanks so much, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great day. Thank you.